Hel- Hello everyone. How are you doing this evening? My name is Miss Kelly and I'm with Little Ant Art. We'll be painting this tonight. Thank you, Riverview PTSA, for setting this up. Thank you so much. All right, so supplies. You have your canvas already, an 8 by 10. You should have a cool little strip of paint, and you should have 2 paintbrushes. There you go. You should have water to wash your brushes and a paper towel. Everybody got those things together? All right. So here's the rules. Number 1, my directions are suggestions. So if there's something else that you want to do, get a little creative, then by all means do that. Okay. I love to see people's different expression of what we're creating. So my directions are suggestions. But we definitely want no goopy spots. So goopy spots are globs of paint that won't dry quickly. And we're going to be doing everything in layers, so it's important that we have no goopy spots. If you make a mistake, there's a few things you can do. 1, pretend like you meant to do that. I do that a lot. Some of my best work comes out that way. So you make a mistake, roll with it. Number 2, wait for it to dry and then paint over it. Don't keep trying to paint over wet paint because it'll just get all sticky. And then lastly, if it's a brand new mistake on a dry background, what you can do is you can get a clean brush and some water and erase it. It's quite magical. So it has to be already on a dry background. All right, you guys ready to paint some fall pumpkins? Now, one of the things that I think is really cool about the pumpkins is they come in all different shapes and sizes. So some are tall and wide, and some are just tall and skinny. So if yours doesn't look just like mine, that's awesome because pumpkins are so very different from each other. But one thing we do want to do is we want to make sure that our pumpkins take up a good amount of space. Our pumpkins are going to be our focal point. That's the main thing going on our painting. So we want to make sure that they're nice and big. Number 1, so that it looks all proportionate. And number 2, we want to make sure we have enough black paint for all of our background. And if you do tiny little pumpkins, we're going to need a lot more black paint. And this is what we're working with here, right? But trust me, this is enough. So also, one last thing. If I say we're going to use a medium brush, but you're like, I think I feel more comfortable with the small brush, then do that. Do what makes you feel comfortable, all right? So I'm going to start off with my medium brush. We're going to get going on these pumpkins. I'm going to open up my orange, yellow, and brown. These colors all blend really well together. And using these 3 colors, we're going to make our pumpkins look different from each other. All right, so orange, yellow, and brown. Open those up. Medium brush. I'm going to start with the orange paint. Now, we're going to do everything in layers. So if it doesn't look exactly the right shape, that's fine because we're going to be painting layers and layers. I don't want to be quite in the middle. I want it to be a little bit off to the side. And I'm going to paint a pumpkin. So I look at this pumpkin and I'm like, that's not exactly the shape that I want it. That's fine. I would like it to be a little bit wider. So I'm going to make it a little wider on both sides. And I want it to have a little bit of a flat bottom. So while we're painting these pumpkins, all of our brush strokes are going to be going in the direction of the ridges of the pumpkins. So I'm now going to take some orange and yellow at the same time. So I have orange and yellow on my brush. And I'm going to continue to paint. This time I'm going to use just yellow. I didn't wash my brush. And I'm going to paint with the curve of my pumpkin. Now, I can see that I have some goopy spots. And remember, I said no goopy spots. So I'm going to spread that paint around. With those goopy spots, I have not washed my brush. Next, I'm going to put just some yellow this time. And I'm going to keep painting in the direction of those ridges on my pumpkins. I'm going to get some orange and yellow. I'm going to fill it in. Making curved brush strokes. Later, I will make some more defining lines. But for now, I'm just going to fill it all in using the oranges, the orange and the yellow. So I paint pretty much every day, sometimes a few times a day. I know I go a little bit faster than you all, so I'm just going to give you a minute to catch up. I have no goopy spots. Later on, I'm going to add some more lines for those cool ridges, those cool pumpkin ridges. Like I said, no goopy spots. So this pumpkin, I used orange and yellow. For the next pumpkin, I want it to look different. I want it to be a different color so that when it looks like it's sitting in front of it, it's a little bit more, it stands out. You want it to pop because it's in front of it and it's a different color. So instead of using orange and yellow, I'm going to use brown and orange next. Now, you could also do orange and white or yellow and brown maybe. I think orange and white or brown and orange are the two best combinations for our second pumpkin. All right. You ready to move on? So if at any time you need me to slow down or you have any questions, you can just type it in on the chat, in the little chat area, the comment section, and the lovely ladies from your PTSA will get those questions to me, and I will answer any questions that you have. I will slow down, whatever you need, all right? So just let me know. Moving on to pumpkin number 2. I'm not going to wash my brush because these colors all go really well together. So this time I'm going to use orange and brown. And I'm going to make this pumpkin look like it is in front of my first pumpkin. Now, if I have no goopy spots on here, then it shouldn't blend together. So orange and brown. I'm going to make this one shorter. I'm going to make it in front of my pumpkin. I want it to have kind of a flat bottom. So I'm going to use brown. Remember, you can always change the shape of that pumpkin a little bit if you need to. I think I'm going to throw in a little bit of yellow over here. I just want the colors to be different. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. And all my lines are going to be curved while I'm painting. I see some goopy spots in there, so I'm going to spread those around. And we will be adding more details in just a bit. Yes, spread those goopy spots. Especially for our younger painters. That's where I notice the most goopy spots. And you can tell by if you move your painting around a little bit, if you see some shiny spots. Now, if your paintbrush itself has a lot of paint on it, you can also take your paper towel and take some paint off that way. When you're washing your brush, I use a jar. I swirl it around. I use the side of my cup or my jar to get some of that extra paint off. And then to dry it, I either hold on to the metal part of my paintbrush and pinch it and pull up, or I put it on the paper towel and I kind of brush it onto the paper towel. I don't want to smush it. I don't want to smush it and give it crazy hair. Now, this paintbrush I've been using for quite a while, and it works awesome because I don't smush it and give it crazy hair. So that is my advice to you on how to wash and dry your brushes. So if you've got your pumpkins all done, then the next thing we're going to do is our background. Now, something you might want to just think about while you're painting the background is, so I did white polka dots on here, which are fun. I really like the white polka dots. I like polka dots, but I think it would be cool if you did maybe some fall leaves or maybe some orange and yellow polka dots. Your background does not have to look exactly like mine. But to start with, we're going to just paint it all black. Okay? Now, if we went by the no goopy spots rule, I can tell up here that it's all dry. No shiny spots. I can see that my brown pumpkin on the bottom, he's still a little bit wet. He's still a little shiny. That's fine. I'm going to give him time to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and open up one of my black paints. I'm going to put some black on that medium brush. And I'm going to start at the top here. I'm going to go nice and slow around my pumpkin. Now, when it looks like my paint, the black paint, if it looks like it turns into a dry marker, that means I need more paint. So I go nice and slow all the way around. So I'm going to go nice and slow all the way around my pumpkin. All the way around my brown pumpkin too. I see some goopy spots, so I'm going to spread them around. So this part, like I said, I go very slowly. And part of the reason why we want to outline all the way around first is so that when we put our details in our pumpkin, then the black will be dry and it won't pick up any of that black paint if we don't want any black in the inside of our pumpkin. So whatever we want to dry first, that's what we paint first. So I go nice and slow with my medium brush. If you have any little corners, little edges like this that you're like, oh, I think I need my small brush, then go ahead and do that. And then after I have gone all the way around my pumpkin, I have no goopy spots, then I go fast. So I went nice and slow, and now I can go fast. We are going to paint that whole background black. Nice and slow when you're all the way around the pumpkins, and then go fast. If it looks like a dry marker, you need more paint. But I do want to make sure I don't have any goopy spots. So I'm going to check back. Go slow when I'm next to that pumpkin. I don't want to accidentally get any black paint in my pumpkin. I can see I have some goopy spots right next to the edge of my big pumpkin, so I want to go nice and slow. Move that paint around. And then go fast. Slow. And then fast. Any goopy spots, you can move it around. I see I have some dry marker looking areas. Now, I can see that I am only about halfway through my first little pot of black paint. So if you are about the same place as me with your paint usage, if you don't have any goopy spots, then what I really like to do is I like to even paint my edges. So that way when I hang it up, it looks all nice and finished. So compared to that, and if you don't have time right now, then that could be something that you go back and do later on. If you're very carefully painting your background, or maybe your pumpkins took a little bit longer. What's nice about having these art supplies is that you can always touch up your paintings at a later time. So I can see that pretty much all around my pumpkins, almost, I have one little shiny spot, but for the most part, it is all dry. And remember, you can always go back and touch things up later. Make sure I have no goopy spots. So you can tell which part is wet, which part is dry. You can see that right around my pumpkin, it's not very shiny, so that means it's dry. If you're painting your edges, you definitely want to get your bottom edge. Unless you're hanging it very low, you will see that when you hang it up. Now, I'm guessing that everyone will have some extra paint. Now, if you have extra paint, what are you going to do with it? You paint rocks. I live in Imperial Beach, and there's something that the community does where they paint rocks and then they leave them around for people to find. You can also paint on the back of cardboard boxes, like cereal boxes. If you don't have canvases at home, those make for great canvases. All right. So I'm going to paint one more edge here. If you want to paint all of your edges, you're welcome to do that later. I know that we probably have a wide range of ages painting with us. And I know that some little ones paint really fast. They're like painting ninjas. So I don't want them to get bored. So I'm going to stop right there. Later on, so I painted two edges. Later on, I'll paint my other two edges on my own. I want to add some details to my pumpkins, and while this section right here dries. So I'm going to wash and dry my medium brush. So I put it into my jar, swished it around. I'm brushing it across the side. Look, you can see that black drip right there. Now, another nice thing of being at home is if you want to, you could change your water really easily. So if you want to change your water because that black paint is really powerful, so I'm going to make sure that I get my brush nice and clean because we're going to be using some yellow and white. And if we have the big, or if we still have the black paint on it, it will definitely come out in there. So now would be a good time to change your water if you like, and make sure that your brush is as clean as possible. Mine looks good. All right, so details. Now, remember, I said that I wanted my my pumpkins to have a little bit of different colors. So one has more brown and one has more orange and yellow. So I'm going to kind of stick with that as I make my ridges a little bit more defined, but I'm also going to use a little bit of brown on my yellow and orange pumpkin, and I'm going to use some yellow on my brown pumpkin, and I'm going to put some white in there too, okay? So go ahead and open up your white. I'm going to close the black now. So I'm going to start where I started before. So before I started with my yellow and orange pumpkin. So I'm going to start there again. But this time I'm going to take some brown and some orange. There's like a glare on here. And I'm going to make some more curved lines. So all my lines are going to be curved. I get some of that orange, some of that brown. I'm going to use the flat side of my brush on some of it and kind of turn it. Do the same over here. I'm going to stop where when I get to my little pumpkin. Have some orange on that brush. I'm not washing my brush in between the use of my orange and my brown because I like to have those colors mixed together. Use some more orange. I'm going to put a little bit more yellow in the middle and blend those colors together. So I put some yellow on my brush. Curved lines. Curved lines. Curved lines from the top. Curved lines from the bottom using the brown and the yellow and the orange. Trying to get that glare as the natural light has left my house. It has changed the lighting on the video. So curved lines. I'm going to take a little bit of white. I'm going to use the top part of my paint pot. So the little lid, I'm going to take a little bit of white off of there. And I'm going to put a couple lines from the top and the bottom. Now this might be where you feel more comfortable using a smaller brush. And we will be adding a stem on there. I'm going to wipe the white off of my paintbrush with my paper towel. And I'm going to add a little bit of yellow in there. So just play with those colors and those ridges.
What are you doing, Evie?
And remember, all pumpkins look very different. Okay? So after I've done some layers of color on my big pumpkin, I'm going to go to the smaller pumpkin.
Did you eat some pizza? Huh?
And I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to use some brown on here. Make some ridges from the bottom up. And then I'm going to switch to my small brush. I want to put some more details in there. And I'm going to do my stems using the small brush. So I have my little brush. I'm going to put a couple more lines for ridges in my big pumpkin with my brown and the small brush. Now, if your paint is still kind of wet, then if you press very lightly, it won't all blend together. If you want it to blend together, press harder. I want a little bit more brown at the bottom so it makes like a shadow. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow at the top. for my little pumpkin, I'm going to put some more ridges there too. With my brown, I'm pressing very lightly so that the paint does not blend in. And with that brown paint and a tiny, be very careful, tiny bit of black. So go ahead and open up your black again. I'm going to make some stems, and some stems are pointy and some stems are more flat. I put a little bit of black in there. Just a tiny smidge. You can even take it from the lid of your paint pot. Now, if your little brush starts feeling goopy, like it's not making the same nice lines that it was before, you can wash it, dry it, and pinch it. You can always go back in and add more ridges or blend the ridges together depending on the look that you're going for. All right. Pumpkins all are very different. Nature's beautiful that way. So the next thing we're going to do is make some polka dots. Now, remember what I said earlier. If you're not feeling polka dots, if you want to get creative and do some leaves or something like that, then that is totally an option. So I can see that my background is all dry. Okay. So I'm going to use my white paint. And for polka dots, what I like to do is I like to purposely make them different sizes. If I try to make them all the same size, it's hard and it's kind of frustrating. So if I purposely make them random, it's a lot more enjoyable for me to paint because I'm not trying to make everything look exactly the same. So that's my little trick of making it like I meant to do that. So I'm just going to paint some circles. I start off kind of small and then I get bigger, and that helps me with making that circular shape. Now, if you want to make little dots, like a bunch of little dots, what's kind of cool is you can use the back of your paintbrush. So you can just put a little bit of paint on your paintbrush there and make a dot. So if there's any parts of this that you have missed, you can always go back and look at the video again. Don't rush. Relax and paint. It's no fun if you rush. So I'm just going to put some little dots. Like I said, I purposely make them different sizes. You can even make one like it's off on the side. If you start off smaller, it's easier to make them bigger. I also like to do like a very thin little white line on my pumpkin stem there. Make some little lines on there, like it has a little light shining on it. I press very lightly. The lighter I press, the smaller the lines are, the finer my lines will be. And one very important thing to do is to sign it. So for me, I don't love my signature, like my whole name in cursive, but it's important to sign your artwork. So I sign mine with a line and a K for Kelly. I think today I'll use yellow. Sometimes I use different colors. It almost looks like a little star. So those are our fall pumpkins. I have an Instagram. It's Little Ant Art, like the bug. And it has little.ant.art. And if you would love, I would love it if you tagged me in your creations, follow me. I do other online parties, and when things are normal, I do parties in person as well. And there we go, folks.
Thank you so much, Miss Kelly. We all had so much fun painting our fall pumpkins. I hope everyone had a great time. And remember, this will be reposted as a replay for you when we're all done. We did have one question that just came through that said, what color are the stems?
I did brown with a little bit of black, a tiny bit of black.
Great. If you want to post your creations online, you can tag Little Ant Art on Instagram and Facebook. Also tag RIA-PTSA with our hashtag RIA-PTSA Virtual Paint Night. And we will highlight some of your art on our website and also in the school newsletter.
And don't forget your edges. Don't forget your edges. All right. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.